So I moved a couple months ago and I couldn't find my camera anywhere, but today I was able to find it. So I thought, let's make a video talking about the playoff games because there's a lot to get to. So before I share my thoughts on the college football playoff games we saw yesterday, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications. If you're a college football fan, this is definitely the place for you. I'm going to be posting a ton of college football content all off season. So again, if you enjoy videos like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications because we got a lot of awesome content coming your way. I'm also going to be posting a video in the coming days, just pretty much sharing my thoughts on the college football playoff, how I think they can improve, and what needs to happen because over the last few days, the games that we've seen play out, we need to expand the playoff. I'm just going to leave it at that. So if you want to hear my thoughts on the college football playoff rankings, that video is going to be coming out in a couple days or so. So again, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that video. The first game, not a whole lot that I really want to get into. Alabama at Notre Dame. I was shocked that Notre Dame actually covered. For those of you that don't know, I think Alabama was either a 19 or 20 point favorite, depending on who you bet with, depending on that kind of stuff. And Notre Dame, they covered. So I guess in a way, Notre Dame kind of won yesterday, but a great game from Alabama. I personally thought that they were going to win by at least 30 points. It was impressive on Notre Dame's end, the fact that they held Alabama to 31 points. I think that was like the lowest amount of points Alabama has scored since they lost in that national championship to Clemson a few years back. So really shocked and actually impressed by Notre Dame's defense being able to limit Alabama to only 31 points. I talked about this on my podcast, and I've been talking about this with friends over the last few weeks, and I said Alabama, they're guaranteed their 35 points. That's going to happen. They're likely going to score 45 points, and I just don't think Notre Dame is going to be able to keep up. Well, coming into the game, if you would have said Notre Dame's going to be able to hold Alabama to only 31 points, I would have said they have a chance because Alabama, though their defense is really good, it's not as good as it's been in years past. So if Notre Dame just would have needed 31 points, I think they could have pulled off the upset. But unfortunately, Notre Dame's offense looked absolutely... I don't even know what word I can use to describe Notre Dame's offense. Again, I get they got that last second touchdown, right before the game ended, but their offense prior to that was doing absolutely nothing. Alabama's defense, credit to Alabama's defense, they showed up. They had probably their best outing of the entire season because after what we saw Florida do against that Alabama defense, I was thinking Notre Dame, they're guaranteed at least 3 touchdowns. I think they're given 21. We're going to give them 21 to start, see what they can do after that. But Alabama's defense, again, credit to them. They stepped up. They showed up. Notre Dame, yet again, you guys let us all down. You were somewhat in the game in the second quarter, which I thought was more than impressive. I thought by the end of the first quarter, this game would have already been out of hand. You guys held in for the first quarter and a half. If you guys don't watch my podcast, my friend said this about a week ago, and I thought it was genius. I don't know if any other beat reporters have been saying anything about this, but a lot of people have been let down by what they've done over the years in the big games and all that kind of stuff, and I totally get it. Notre Dame, they have like some insane streak. They're like 0-7, 0-8 over their last, like New Year's Six bowl game, something like that. They just can't get the job done. But there's Alabama, there's Clemson, I guess Ohio State because they pulled out the victory, but there are 2 or 3 dominant teams in college football every year. Those are the 2 or 3 best teams. Notre Dame, they're consistently one of the 4, 5, 6 best teams on any given year, which is still really good. If there was an 8 or 16 team playoff, they'd consistently be winning 1 or 2 games, getting to that Final Four and so forth. But ultimately losing to one of these top teams, and it's not their fault. Again, Notre Dame, they do a great job recruiting. They have some really good teams. It just happens to be they're the team on a consistent basis that has to go up against an Alabama, that has to go up against a Clemson. Same thing with Oklahoma. I know a lot of people give Oklahoma a lot of crap for consistently losing in the college football playoff, but you have to give credit where credit's due, and the fact that they're able to make the college football playoff on a consistent basis. Oklahoma is able to win 10 games on a consistent basis. Same thing with Notre Dame. So I'm not going to say that Notre Dame, again, they're overrated, anything like that. They were deserving to be one of the 4 teams there. It's just no team can compete against Bama. We're going to see what Ohio State's able to do next week against Alabama, but the thing is, no one can compete. So Notre Dame, I get that, they ended up losing by 17, 18 points, which I think is a good quality loss. Any other team against Bama, they would have lost by 30 to 40. So it really sucks for Notre Dame and their fans that this happens on a year-to-year basis. But again, that's just how it is. No one's taking down Alabama. No one's taking down Clemson, Ohio State, any of these big dogs. But again, I was impressed from Alabama. They look good. I was shocked they only scored 31 points, and I was shocked Notre Dame was as close as they were, but the game went as expected. I think Alabama's the best team in the country. Devontae Smith, he's the best player in the country. Najee Harris, he's the best running back in the country, and it's going to be interesting to see if Alabama loses next week to Ohio State, because I've been saying this for weeks. I think Alabama's the best team in the country by far. I don't think anyone can take him down. but maybe Ohio State can now. All right, but now let's talk about the biggest game, the most shocking game from yesterday, and that's the fact that Ohio State, I have it on my computer right now because I just had to double check to make sure again that this actually happened. Ohio State, they took down Clemson by 21 points. Now, over the last few weeks, I talked about this on my podcast last week. I like Clemson. I like Clemson to win this game. They were the favorite. I thought they were the better team, and I really like Clemson. However, seeing that the line was 7.5 points, that they were 7-point favorites over Ohio State, I was really starting to lean towards Ohio State, mainly because of just Dabo Swinney running his mouth the last few weeks. I made a video about how Dabo put Ohio State at number 11 in his coach's poll. But, he was saying they only have 6 games worth of film, so watching film on them is going to be really easy. He's just been saying a whole bunch of stuff, and I'm sure Ohio State players, Ohio State coaches, they were hearing everything about that, and you could just tell that they wanted this game. Now, when Clemson drove down the field and scored on the first drive, I myself thought this game's over. Clemson's going to buy a few touchdowns. But Ohio State, man, they just looked like the better team. Now, I know that there's a lot of Dabo Swinney stuff that they probably used as motivation, but what a lot of people forgot is the fact that Ohio State should have won this game last year when they played Clemson in the Fiesta Bowl. A bad call from the referees overturned a touchdown that Ohio State should have had. Chris Olave, obviously the whole miscue at the end there, that really cost Ohio State. But Ohio State, in my opinion, again, last year, everyone forgets that Ohio State should have won that game, and they were reminded of that every day this past year. In their weight room, they had an image, or they had the score that was blown up and shown in the weight room. So every day when Ohio State was working out, they were being reminded of the score of the game that they lost to, and that obviously bothered them. And they came out, and again, they were just the better team. Justin Fields, I mean, that dude definitely either broke his ribs, had something with his back, shoulder. That dude was hurt. They didn't want to disclose what the injury was because it probably would have given Clemson an advantage. They would have known, oh, he has some bad ribs, let's go for the ribs or something like that. So they didn't want to say what the injury was. He was injured. He had something wrong with him. The dude literally looked like he was in pain every time he moved, every time he got on the sideline. The dude was hurting. He had the greatest game, of his career, of his life. One of the best games we've seen in college football from a quarterback. I'm trying to think all those Joe Burrow games last year, but given the circumstances, given that Ohio State was a massive underdog, Justin Fields was insanely hurt, and he threw 6 touchdowns. And this was coming after a disastrous game against Northwestern. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I remember watching that game, and I was thinking to myself, Justin Fields, not only is he losing draft stock value, this is the dude that might not even be the second quarterback taken in the NFL draft anymore. But I think right now, New York Jets fans, assuming that the Jags go with Trevor Lawrence, I think New York Jets fans, you guys are more than okay with getting Justin Fields now with the number 2 overall pick. But just, again, what a performance from Ohio State. Everything was going their way. I mean, they were clicking on offense. Their defense, which I've said this in weeks past, Ohio State, the one thing that scares me about them, we know what their offense can do. It's the defense that scares me because their defense is really beatable. And they made Trevor Lawrence look not so good yesterday. I get that Trevor Lawrence threw for 400 yards. He had 2 touchdowns, but he just overall didn't look as good as we've seen Trevor Lawrence look in the past. Travis Etienne, I don't know what's going on with this dude this year. His draft stock has taken a major hit. He was held to only 32 rushing yards on the ground. He was no impact in the run game whatsoever. And even Trevor Lawrence, who's been a threat in the run game, we've seen it over the years. This is a guy where I think he's a very underrated runner. He was held to -8 yards on 10 carries. I think there's maybe 1 or 2, runs he had where he was able to get some positive yards, but it seemed like he was not able to go anywhere. In Ohio State, they were just able to swarm him. Clemson's offensive line, man, they owe Trevor Lawrence big time because he was just getting pressured, it seemed like, on every play. And again, Ohio State, they just looked like the second best team in the entire country yesterday. If you were to watch both of those games, you could make the case Ohio State looked like the best team in general. They looked better than Alabama did, and that's saying a lot. So, I mean, overall, I was just really shocked with the game because, again, I thought Clemson was going to win, but I did think Ohio State was going to hang around. They're going to make it a close game just because, one, Ohio State still is a good team. Everyone forgets that because they only played 6 games. There was the controversy in the Big Ten. Ohio State's still a good team, and I said it earlier, they likely should have been in the championship game last year. They're going to be in the championship game this year, and everyone was sleeping on them, but I just didn't think, no one saw this coming. I'm sure the players and coaches in Ohio State, they'll say, oh, we were expecting to win by 3 touchdowns. Come on. you weren't expecting to do this to Clemson. I don't think anyone was expecting this to happen from Clemson. So Ohio State, they dominated Clemson. Really shocked me. Justin Fields, one of the best games I've seen in recent memory. Trey Sermon, I haven't even mentioned his name yet just because I was talking so much about Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence. This is like that Ezekiel Elliott run a few years back when in 2014 when Ohio State went on that national championship run, when Ezekiel Elliott was pumping out like 200-yard games on a consistent basis. He ran for over 300 yards in the last game against Northwestern. He ran for just under 200 yards against Clemson yesterday, and it looked like Clemson couldn't stop him. I don't know exactly how he was averaging only 6.2 yards per carry. If he can continue this, if he can do this against Alabama, which I very well think he could, I think he's going to be able to rush for at least 150 yards against Alabama. This could be the difference maker between Ohio State potentially winning the game, because he has looked like the best running back. I talked about Najee Harris is the best running back in college football, no questions asked. But over the last 2 games we've seen from Trey Sermon, he's looked like the best running back in college football, and it's going to be exciting to see what he's able to do against Alabama. So I'm not really going to do a preview video for Alabama, Ohio State. I'll just do that in this video right now. Not a whole lot I want to share my thoughts on. I think it's going to be a great game. I do think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think as of right now, the over-under is at 77, which is insane. I think there were 77 points scored in the Clemson-Ohio State game, so they're expecting a lot of points. So they're expecting this to be a shootout of a national championship. Last I saw, Alabama was favored by 7 points, and I really don't know. Alabama's the best team in the country. I still think they're going to win this game. As I mentioned, a lot went right for Ohio State yesterday. Everything was clicking. Everything was going right. How's Justin Fields going to be feeling this week? How's his ribs or whatever the problem is? How's that going to be going for him? Is he going to be fully healthy? He's not going to throw 6 touchdowns against Alabama. He's just not going to do that. I'm going to give my prediction. I think Alabama's going to win the game. I'm going to go 45-35. They're going to win by 10 points. But again, it's going to be a high-scoring affair. It's going to be a great game. If this Ohio State team comes out and they can take on Bama, there's a good chance that Ohio State could win this whole thing. Now, wouldn't that be something if Ohio State comes out and they're the team that wins the national championship? They were, on the verge of not even playing in their Big Ten title game, and now they have a chance to win the college football national championship. So it's going to be a great game. Again, hopefully there's a lot of points. Hopefully Justin Fields is fine. Hopefully he can come out and have a great game. It's going to be exciting to see how Mac Jones looks, how Devontae Smith looks, how Najee Harris looks, and I'm just really looking forward to this one, but I do have Alabama. So yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. What are your thoughts from these 2 playoff games? Were you shocked that Alabama only beat Notre Dame by 17, 18 points? And how shocked were you that Clemson lost by 3 touchdowns to Ohio State? Whatever your thoughts are, drop a comment down below, let me know, and let me know who you think is going to win the national championship. Give me your winner, give me your score prediction, and let's just hope for a great game. In the coming days, I'm going to drop a video sharing my thoughts on the playoff rankings and how I think the playoff needs to be expanded, because as we've seen, 4 teams is simply not enough. We need more, and hopefully we get that in the coming years. If you haven't done so yet, make sure to give this video a thumbs up, and make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications. If you're new to the channel, I post a ton of college football content. We have a lot of videos coming this offseason, so again, if you love college football, this is definitely the place for you. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.